Good afternoon, everybody.
It's Doug. Anytime you want to go on the record, you're ready.
Thank you. We can go on the record, Doug. Thank you. Is everybody here?
Good afternoon. Yes.
Continuing in the matter of case number 9664 before the Maryland Public Service Commission in the matter of the application of Columbia Gas of Maryland, Inc. for authority to increase rates and charges. We're here this afternoon to continue evidentiary hearing. We left off with Columbia Gas witnesses, and we'll resume with the Office of People's Counsel's witnesses. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. OPC calls Lafayette Morgan to the stand.
Mr. Morgan? I actually don't see him here.
I
It's this
talked to him
morning.
a short while ago, and he has the invite. Hold on, let me send him a note.
Okay.
Your Honor. Your Honor, as I mentioned, I spoke to Mr. Morgan just a short while ago. He has the invite. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm assuming it's a technical issue. Could I call Mr. Guerin, our depreciation witness, instead, just while we wait for Mr. Morgan to work out the kinks here?
Sure, that would be fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. OPC calls James Guerin to the stand.
Good afternoon, Mr. Guerin. Could you please raise your right hand? You swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Guerin. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thanks. Mr. Guerin, would you kindly state your name for the record?
My name is James S. Guerin. Shay Guerin.
Thank you. And would you please state the name of your business and its address and location?
The name of my business is Snavely King Majoros and Associates. The business address is Suite 350 C, PO Box 727, Millersville, Maryland 21108.
Thank you, Mr. Guerin. Do you have before you a document entitled Direct Testimony of James Guerin, which was filed in this case on July 26, 2021?
Yes, I do.
And does that document consist of 13 pages of narrative testimony and 2 appendices concerning your qualifications?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would like to have Mr. Guerin's pre-filed direct testimony marked for identification as OPC Exhibit 3.
So marked.
Thank you. Mr. Guerin, do you have before you a document entitled Surrebuttal Testimony of James Guerin?
Yes, I do.
Which was filed in this case on September 2nd, 2021.
Yes.
And does that testimony consist of 8 pages of narrative testimony?
Mr. Guerin, you're going to have to speak up because you're too low coming through. Lean into into your computer.
My apologies. I'll try to speak up. Is that better?
Yes.
Much better.
Great. I'll see if I can raise the volume on my mic as well.
Just lean in. It'll be fine.
All right. Chair does not make that any easier.
I'll start over with a surrebuttal, Mr. Guerin. Do you have also before you a document entitled Surrebuttal Testimony of James S. Guerin?
Yes, I do.
And was that document filed in this case on September 2nd, 2021? And does it consist of 4 pages of narrative testimony?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would like to have Mr. Guerin's pre-filed surrebuttal testimony marked for identification as OPC Exhibit 4.
So marked.
Thank you. Mr. Guerin, were all of these documents before you prepared by you or under your supervision and direction?
Yes, they were.
Do you have any corrections or deletions to make to your respective testimonies at this time?
I do not.
Mr. Guerin, if you were asked the same questions today under oath as were posed in your pre-filed testimonies, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
For these reasons, do you adopt these direct and surrebuttal testimonies respectively as your sworn testimony in this matter?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Your Honor, I move that OPC exhibit numbers 3 and 4 be admitted into evidence.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Staff says no.
Staff has no objection.
Okay, exhibits 3 and 4 will be admitted to the record.
Thank you. Your Honor, the witness is now available for cross-examination.
Does the company have any cross-examination?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay, staff?
No questions, Your Honor.
I also do not have any questions for Mr. Guerin.
Terribly disappointed, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Guerin. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your Honor, it does appear that Mr. Morgan is now present in the virtual hearing. So let me go ahead and try again. OPC calls Lafayette Morgan to the stand.
Mr. Morgan, could you please raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? I think you have to unmute yourself, sir.
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Morgan. Would you please state your full name for the record?
My name is Lafayette Morgan, Jr.
And would you please state the name of your business and its address and location?
I work with Exeter Associates. Business address is 10480 Little Patuxent Parkway, Suite 300, Columbia, Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Do you have before you a document entitled Direct Testimony of Lafayette Morgan, errata version, which was filed in this case on August 12th, 2021?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And does that document consist of 15 pages of narrative testimony, your schedules LKM1 through LKM18, and a response to a data request?
Yes.
Your Honor, OPC would like to have Mr. Morgan's pre-filed direct testimony marked for identification as OPC Exhibit 1.
So marked.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, do you also have before you a document entitled Surrebuttal Testimony of Lafayette Morgan, which was filed in this case on September 2nd, 2021?
I do.
And does that testimony consist of 8 pages of narrative testimony, schedules LKM1 through 18, and responses to 3 data requests?
Yes, I do. It does.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, do you also have before you a set of revised, Your Honor, I would like to have Mr. Morgan's pre-filed surrebuttal testimony marked as OPC Exhibit 2.
Marked.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, finally, do you also have before you a revised set of your surrebuttal schedules, which were filed in this case today, September 14th, 2021, and served on the parties?
Yes, I do. I have it.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, actually, for that, Your Honor, could I have that as OPC Exhibit, I believe we're on 16?
16, yes. So marked.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Morgan, were all of these documents before you prepared by you or under your supervision and direction?
Yes.
And do you have any corrections or deletions to make to your respective testimonies at this time?
No, I do not have any.
Thanks. And if you were asked the same questions today under oath as were posed in your pre-filed testimonies, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
And for these reasons, do you adopt these direct and surrebuttal testimonies as well as the revised surrebuttal schedules, respectively, as your sworn testimony in this matter?
Yes.
Your Honor, before I move these documents into evidence, I was wondering if I may have the opportunity for Mr. Morgan to explain what's been marked as OPC Exhibit 16, the revised surrebuttal schedules. As I mentioned, as a preliminary matter this morning, Mr. Morgan made changes for a couple of reasons. That his overall recommendation is now somewhat of an increase over his filed surrebuttal position. And I was wondering if Mr. Morgan may be given the opportunity to walk through those now, just so that the record is as accurate and complete as possible.
Yes, please, I would ask you to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, could you explain to Her Honor each of the changes that you had to make to your surrebuttal schedules and generally what the impact was of those changes?
Yes, I can. On Friday, which was September 10th, the company filed a set of revised schedules exhibits 1, 3, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And in those exhibits, the company explained that they were responding to a recommendation that I made in my rebuttal testimony with respect to the value of rate base. Essentially, in my rebuttal testimony, I mentioned that rate base appeared to be overstated because of the fact that the construction work in progress, CWIP or QUIP, balance had not been reduced, even though the company had reflected an increase to reflect plant that had been placed in service post-test year, reliability plan. The company responded by accepting the concerns that I had and made an adjustment to reflect a reduction in QUIP, which would have reduced, or which did reduce the plant and service balance and should have reduced the revenue requirement. I discovered that in addition to that reduction in construction work in progress, the company also updated its claim for rate case expenses. In the company's rebuttal filing, the company included $81,000, I believe, $81,244 as their claim for rate case expenses. And in this latest update, the company updated rate case expenses to $121,859. The adjustment or my revised schedules reflect the changes proposed by the company, or I should say, the changes that the company made. So essentially, the company and I now agree on the level of rate base. The only difference that, well, I should say, we still have a disagreement on the rate case expense, in that I am recommending an adjustment based on the 5-year average rate case cost, whereas the company is recommending $121,859 as the rate case expense. In short, as a result of reflecting these latest numbers, the OPA revised position has been changed to $279,100.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Your Honor, I move that OPC exhibit numbers 1, 2, and 16 be admitted into evidence.
Is there any objection?
No objection, Your Honor. No objection.
OPC's exhibit 1, 2, and 16 will be admitted to the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Morgan is now available for cross-examination.
Does the company have any cross-examination for Mr. Morgan?
No questions, Your Honor.
Staff?
Staff has 2 questions, if I may. I did inform council that I would have none, but these are very simple. These exhibits that you provided today with the letter dated September 14th, should those exhibits be considered as replacing similarly numbered exhibits previously filed?
Yes.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask you is, the company submitted some expenses for charter flights and other airplane expenses. And staff has not allowed those. They were changed, I think, with the September 10th filing, and I was wondering if they are changed in your filing.
My filing reflects the numbers as presented by the company. I did not take note of a change in the charter flights. The extent that the company incorporated those change is reflected in my exhibits.
Can you speak up, Mr. Morgan? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I stated that when the basis for my numbers was the company's filing that was made on September the 10th. To the extent that the company has incorporated staff's adjustment to chartered flights, then those numbers are reflected in my recommendation.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Your Honor, OPC calls Jerome Mearswa to the stand.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mearswa. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mearswa. Would you kindly state your name for the record?
My name is Jerome D. Mearswa.
And would you please state the name of your business and its address and location?
My business is Exeter Associates, Inc. Our business address is 10480 Little Patuxent Parkway, Suite 300. That's in Columbia, Maryland, 21044.
Thank you, Mr. Mearswa. Do you have before you a document entitled Direct Testimony of Jerome Mearswa, which was filed in this case on July 26, 2021?
I do.
And does that testimony consist of 34 pages of narrative testimony, your CV, and 2 responses to data requests?
Yes, it did.
Your Honor, I would like to have Mr. Mearswa's direct testimony marked as OPC Exhibit 5.
So marked.
Thank you. Mr. Mearswa, do you also have before you a document entitled Rebuttal Testimony of Jerome Mearswa, which was filed in this case on August 16, 2021, consisting of 9 pages of narrative testimony?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Your Honor. OPC would ask that Mr. Mearswa's rebuttal testimony be marked as OPC Exhibit 6.
So marked.
Thank you. Mr. Mearswa, do you also have before you a document entitled Surrebuttal Testimony of Jerome Mearswa, filed in this case on September 2nd, 2021, consisting of 15 pages of narrative testimony?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, OPC would ask that Mr. Mearswa's pre-filed surrebuttal testimony be marked as OPC Exhibit 7.
So marked.
Mr. Mearswa, were all these documents before you prepared by you or under your supervision and direction?
Yes, they were.
Do you have any corrections or deletions to make to your respective testimonies at this time?
I have one correction to make that I just noticed this morning. In my surrebuttal, page 8, lines 20 through 21, it says, I testify that I was the OPC's cost allocation and rate design witness in each proceeding. The words each proceeding should be deleted, and inserted should be case numbers 9322 and 9481. That's the extent of my corrections.
Thank you, Mr. Mearswa. If you were asked the same questions today under oath as were posed in your pre-filed testimonies, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
And for these reasons, do you adopt these direct, rebuttal, and surrebuttal testimonies respectively as your sworn testimony on this matter?
I do.
Thank you. Your Honor, I move that OPC exhibit numbers 5, 6, and 7 be admitted into evidence.
Is there any objection? None from the company. Any objection from staff?
No objection.
Thank you. OPC exhibits 5, 6, and 7 will be admitted to the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. The witness is now available for cross-examination.
Is there any cross-examination from the company?
None from the company.
Any questions from staff? I'm sorry, I think you're muted.
I didn't realize Mr. Albert was here.
So I'm going to put my microphone in.
Is there any cross-examination?
Yes, good afternoon. Catherine McErline on behalf of staff. Thank you for your patience getting my microphone resituated. Good afternoon, Mr. Mirzwa. I just have some limited cross for you. Wouldn't you agree that it's true that cost allocation may be more of an art than a science, since fairness and equity are often in the eye of the beholder?
I have testified previously that cost allocation is more of an art than a science.
And you also would agree that cost allocation is a zero-sum process where lower costs for any one group of customers leads to higher costs for another group?
Yes, if the utility is entitled to recover all of its costs.
And isn't it true that the demand commodity study produces results more favorable to the residential customer?
As opposed to which class?
As opposed to the other classes?
It can.
And isn't it true that the customer demand study can also produce results more favorable to the industrial customer?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your statement.
Sure. And isn't it also true that the customer demand study may produce results more favorable to an industrial customer?
It can.
And would you agree that the Office of People's Counsel is a statutory agency that represents the interests of all residential customers of electric, gas, water, and sewage disposal utilities in Maryland?
That may be a legal question. I haven't read that.
Well, I could rephrase. Would you agree? Wouldn't you agree that the Office of People's Counsel represents the interests of residential customers?
Yes, they do.
Thank you. And wouldn't you agree that a regulated utility does not operate in a competitive free market?
That's true. They do not. That's why we have regulation.
And you'd agree that if a regulated public utility operated in a competitive market, then there would be no need for regulatory policy goals to serve as a surrogate for competition to the maximum extent possible, correct?
The utility can operate in a competitive market? No, there would be no need for regulation. But Columbia, Maryland does not operate in such an environment.
Thank you. And sorry, just one moment. And you cite the WGL case 9267 as a reference point for commission precedent accepting the study due to the nature of a coincident peak study, correct?
I'm sorry, I lost one word there.
If I could ask if the counsel for staff could tell the witness specifically where in his testimony she's looking.
Yes.
Hey, Catherine. I've got.
I'm sorry, doing cross. Sorry, one moment. I apologize, I lost the citation. Well, I'm just gonna move on to the next question. Thank you for your patience. You would agree that the interruptible class is unlikely to have any usage during a system-wide design date, correct?
They may not, depends on the system.
And you state that if the commission determines that Columbia's NCP cost should be utilized to determine the revenue distribution in this proceeding, Ms. Howard's revenue distribution based on the NCP costs is not unreasonable, correct?
I did say that.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Thank you. I don't have any questions for Mr. Mariswa.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Mearswa.
Thank you.
At this time, OPC would like to call out David J. Garrett.
Good afternoon. Let's see. I don't see him. I don't think. Is Mr. Garrett on the call?
I don't see him yet.
I don't see him. I think it just popped up. Mr. Garrett, are you here?
Yes, sorry about that.
That's okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Could you just state your name and spell it for the record, please?
My name is David Garrett, Garrett.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. And would you please state the name of your business and its address and location?
My business address is 101 Park Avenue, Suite 1125, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73102.
Thank you. And Mr. Garrett, do you have before you a document entitled Direct Testimony of David J. Garrett, which was filed in this case on July 26, 2021?
Yes.
And does that document include your 85 pages of testimony, Exhibit D, J, G, 1 through 18, and Appendixes A and B?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would like to have Mr. Garrett's pre-filed direct testimony marked for identification as OPC Exhibit 8.
So marked.
And Mr. Garrett, do you have before you a document entitled Rebuttal?
Darren, can I ask you to speak up or get closer to the microphone because you in and out sometimes when you speak?
Sure, I'll get closer.
Thank you, by the way.
Okay, sure, no problem. And yeah, can you see me? Okay. And Mr. Garrett, do you have for you a document entitled Rebuttal Testimony of David J. Garrett filed in this case on August 16th, 2021?
Yes.
And does this document contain 5 pages of testimony?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would like to have Mr. Garrett's pre-filed rebuttal testimony marked for identification as OPC Exhibit 9.
So marked.
And Mr. Garrett, do you have before you a document entitled Surrebuttal Testimony of David J. Garrett filed in this case on September 2nd, 2021?
Yes.
And this document consists of 10 pages of testimony?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would like to have Mr. Garrett's pre-filed surrebuttal testimony marked for identification as OPC Exhibit 10.
So marked.
And Mr. Garrett, were all of these documents before you prepared by you or under your supervision and direction?
Yes.
And do you have any corrections to make? To your respective testimonies at this time?
No.
And if you were asked the same questions today under oath as were posed in your pre-filed testimonies, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
And do you adopt these direct and rebuttal and surrebuttal testimonies respectively as your sworn testimony in this matter?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to that OPC exhibits numbers 8, 9, and 10 be admitted into evidence.
Is there any objection from the company?
Staff has no objection.
Thank you. And no objection. Thank you. OPC exhibits 8, 9, and 10 will be admitted to the record.
Thank you. And Your Honor, at this time, the witness is available for cross-examination.
Does the company have any cross-examination for this witness? The company have any questions for cross?
No cross, Your Honor.
Thank you. Staff?
No cross, Your Honor.
Thank you. I also do not have any questions for this witness. So thank you, Mr. Garrett.
All right.
Or any
Thank you.
questions for you today? Thank you. Is there anything further from the Office of People's Counsel?
Your Honor, no, that completes OPC's case.
Thank you. And are there any other housekeeping issues that we did not address this morning that we need to address before tomorrow?
Your Honor, the company has one request for the parties and for Your Honor's consideration having to do with one of the witnesses, company witnesses, who is scheduled for tomorrow.
Okay.
Witness Mahamadou Bikianga is scheduled to appear tomorrow, and Mr. Bikianga has testified on the issue of weather normalization. So far as I'm aware, this is an uncontested issue in the case. I wanted to see if the parties anticipated at this time whether they may have questions for Mr. Bikianga, and if not, and if Your Honor did not, then I would ask that we might make the arrangement to excuse him from the hearing tomorrow and have the parties stipulate to his testimony. His testimony, it consists of just direct testimony filed in this case.
OPC doesn't have any cross for the witness.
Staff?
Staff has no questions, no cross.
And I also do not have questions for that witness. So if everyone's in agreement to stipulate to the admission of Mr. Bikianga's direct testimony tomorrow, we can just take care of that in the morning without and excuse the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you to the parties.
And other than that, are there any other matters other than this late start? We'll start at 11:30. No? Okay.
Staff has nothing.
Thank you. So I will adjourn for today and restart tomorrow at 11:30. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you
evening.
all.
We're off the record, Your Honor.
Thank you.